idea what's going on. It's almost trying to get the truth out, and I'm getting a lot of resistance, and I'm not really sure what's going on. I think what I might try to do is just pre-record this for you, but yes, I apologize for this. So going back to step number 1, we talked about immune modulation, how important that is. And then what we want to do is we want to build a treatment plan. So the treatment plan is really based off of our health history, the health history of our parents. Hopefully you guys can find me. I hope that hopefully people will join. So our treatment plan is really based on our health history, the health history of our parents, our diagnosis, and also our symptoms. And I hope you guys can find me. I'm just going to head over right now to Facebook and see if you guys can find me there. This is very strange. This has never happened before. Yes. Okay. It's saying MS Diet Challenge. I have no idea why. Okay. So I will finish this off. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me, that people are there again. I think I lost everybody. Awesome. Yay. Okay. Sometimes you wonder what is going on. You're trying to get the truth out and you get all this opposition. Like, what is happening? Okay. All right. So there are people joining. Yay, you can hear me. Thank you. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. Like, first my camera stops working, then the live stream stops. Like, I know that there's resistance to get the truth out, but I don't understand what is going on. Okay, so we're going to get started here. So we talked about immune modulation and how important that is. So remember, like when we're treating our dogs and our cats, we just give them a pill to deworm, right? And we have to not think about, or when we get, let's say we get strep throat or bronchitis or tonsillitis, we just get the antibiotics, bladder infection, get the antibiotics, we'll be done with it in 2 weeks. That's not how it works when you're recovering from chronic disease. I wish it was. If it was, it'd be amazing, but it is not. Obviously, the sooner you treat these parasites, the easier it is to treat them. It still requires work, but you can recover quicker than if you leave it for years where you become much more disabled. So that's really important. So the treatment plan is really based on our health history, because we don't have good tests. So we have to use whatever information that we can use to help us to determine what is going to be the best treatments for us. So we look at our health history, but also the health history of our parents, like what kind of conditions they had, what their health was like, and then our health history and our diagnosis. So what disease label did we get? And then also the diagnosis, but then also symptoms. So in the Live Disease-Free plan, we have this assessment tool, and it's about 14 pages long, and it really helps our students to decide, do I have a lot of fungus? Do I have potentially Lyme disease? Do I have these filarial worms or different types of worms? And so it's about 14 pages, and you just put a C by current symptoms or a P by past symptoms. So there are very specific symptoms for different types of fungus and different types of the vector-borne infections associated with Lyme disease, and also so we've got the bacteria, the fungus, and the worms, the filarial worms. So when you go through that assessment, you can really see like, oh my gosh, I checked off a whole bunch of things for filarial worms, or for worms, for protists, for bacteria, fungi. So that's one piece of the puzzle, and that is really, really helpful. And then we also get commonly prescribed parasite drugs, like one pill at one dose, and then we get energy tested. So we go to a healthcare professional. That would be a chiropractor who does applied kinesiology, or we would find maybe you're working with somebody right now, or maybe it's a naturopathic physician that does some type of energy testing. Sometimes they use machines, and sometimes they use muscle testing. And virtually what it is it's biophysics. So every living thing has an energy field around it. And when you bring things that are helpful into the energy field, so I'm going to make it really simple. When you bring things into the energy field that are helpful, like the right supplement, the right treatment, then we can have restored energy or more balanced energy. And if it's something that is not good for us, it can make us feel weaker, or they can pick it up as that it's weaker with the machine or with our muscles, or maybe it just does nothing. So that has been helpful. That has been really helpful. So, but it's not an exact science either. And so this is why it's really important to work with someone when you're putting all these pieces together with your symptoms, your health history, the health history of your parents, your diagnosis, and your energy testing. And so that's what gives us kind of like the understanding of which of the treatments to use. And then through our own experience, we've coached hundreds of students using all of these different treatments. So we have a very good idea of what works well with different conditions, but also what is tolerated the best. So sometimes certain drugs are tolerated better together. And of course, like if our students test well for 5 parasite drugs, they're not going to take all 5 at the same time, because that die-off would make them flatlined on the couch. They wouldn't be able to handle it. So we bring things in like maybe 2 or 3 together that we know are tolerated. We bring them in slowly and we cycle through. So it usually takes our students 3 to 6 weeks to get ready to treat. To give you kind of an idea, it's really up to the student. So some of our students, they might be still, when they find us, they're eating a lot of sugar. Maybe they're having caffeine and they're having alcohol, and they're eating a lot of processed foods, not eating that healthy. So it might take them a little bit of time to get ready to treat, maybe more 6 weeks. And then some of our students are really disabled. Some are in extended care facilities. So it could take 3 months for someone like that just to be able to work their way off their drugs, to feel better, to follow the diet, to support the body, do that in the immune modulation part, because they don't have a lot of support. So everybody works at a different pace. But if you are still high functioning, you don't have a lot of disability, then probably in about 2 to 3 weeks, you're ready to start treating. And we have found that a layering of therapies works the best. So if you have no chronic disease label, maybe you just have, gut issues, maybe a little bit of constipation, gas, but you feel high energy and you're really healthy and you don't have any disease, then you may not need to use the parasite drugs. You could be energy tested, but you probably don't need to. You might be able to use herbs. But for people that have chronic disease, we found the herbs are just not enough. So there are certain herbs like wormwood and clove and black walnut. Those are 3 common parasite herbs that a lot of students would use in the past if they go to a health food store, or maybe their integrated practitioner would prescribe that, and they still have the MS, they still have the chronic disease. It's not enough. And we relied on a lot of these different types of herbs. So there's things like grapefruit seed extract, there's oil of oregano, garlic is amazing. I'm trying to think, olive leaf extract. There's a whole bunch of different antimicrobial herbs that, again, remember, parasites are not just worms. So all of these are antimicrobial. They're all antiparasitic. Some will treat bigger, smaller, but we have found that using them, and there's some really good blends, I don't want to say the names of them, but they're really popular, that are being sold by different doctors, etc., but they're not enough to recover from MS. We found that. And actually some of those doctors, they had to use parasite drugs to get better, and they're selling herbs, and for people with chronic disease, it's just not enough. I wish it was. I love herbs, but it just hasn't been enough. We use them in conjunction. So we find that a layering of these treatments are the most helpful, where we are using parasite drugs that we test well for, and herbs that we test well for, and oxidizing agent. And I am going to have to move off of YouTube and Facebook for some topics that I talk about, especially the oxidizing agent. Although it's going a little bit more mainstream, like 27 countries are using it, and there's like medical associations that are coming on board, but there's still a lot of censorship going on these big platforms, that they're not allowing this information to get out. And it's so dirt cheap, so cost effective, so helpful. We're able to use it for enemas, to clear out the parasites in the intestines. We're also able to use it orally to help treat parasites orally. It doesn't interact negatively with any of the drug treatments we're using, the parasite drug treatments, and it also doesn't interfere with the herbs. So it's a nice layering, and it does take strategy to recover. The parasite drugs by themselves are not enough. The herbs, the antimicrobial, antiparasitic herbs by themselves are not enough. And the oxidizing agent by itself is not enough. But when you put them all together and you have a successful immune modulation prep phase, that's where the magic happens. This is where people can come out of wheelchairs. They can no longer need to use a walker, a walker, or a cane. They no longer have to maybe use a scooter. Their drop foot can resolve, their spasticity can resolve. All of these things can resolve when you treat the infections effectively. And it does, because we don't have good tests, it does take a little bit of, trial and error, not trial and error, but just trying what tested well. If it's not helping enough, then we have to go back and see, did they prepare well enough, right? Usually that's the problem, is that they haven't followed the diet well enough, or maybe they haven't supported the body well enough. If you have a good practitioner, usually the energy testing is quite helpful, but there has been the very odd occasion where, one person went to two different healthcare professionals that did energy testing and said, you don't have any parasites. And he had MS, and there's no way that you cannot have parasites and have multiple sclerosis. So he went to a third one, and that person was able to identify that, yes, you test really well for these parasite drugs. And it was very consistent with the parasite drugs that we find are really helpful for MS. And a thing that's really helpful if you're going to have somebody energy test you for the treatments is, if they don't know what they're testing, they're blind to it, and that is really helpful because it helps to eliminate any biases that they might have. Humans, we have biases, right? And so if they don't know what they're testing, then they're literally just going by, okay, does this make them stronger? Does it make any difference, right? And they don't know what they're testing. So that's ideal but you have to be careful that you make sure to label things carefully yourself, like with number 1, number 2, so that you know what they are testing. So the treatment part will take a few treatment cycles. So again, I didn't mention before, but biofilms is another thing we have to consider. So these microbes, and I've shared this on my masterclass training, I shared pictures of what a biofilm looks like. And biofilms are literally like a slimy tent coat that protects these disease-causing parasites from our immune system, but also from medication. And so the nice thing is the oxidizing agent really helps that. And it's just a gift from God. It really, really is. It's just absolutely amazing. Again, by itself, it's not enough, but it is really, really helpful. So it helps, that oxidizing agent helps to oxidize heavy metals mildly. It helps to detox our liver. It kills any kind of parasite, whether it's a really big worm or whether it's a small worm or bacteria, fungus, etc. And it's delivering oxygen. That's what oxidative therapy means. It's delivering oxygen to the areas where the infection are. And it's really helpful. The treatment cycles, if you are high functioning, let's say you don't have a diagnosis, or maybe you have just recently been diagnosed, then it might take 4 to 6 treatment cycles. And I am again, this is all for educational purposes. I can't make any promises because I've literally had like one student, Terry Kiley, she came out of a wheelchair in 3 months, and other people might not come out as quickly. So everybody's different. I think if you're a good implementer, that really helps a lot, tremendously. So being a good implementer is really key. Following that immune modulation phase, the diet, and the supporting the body, the prep phase is super important. And then making sure that you have good energy test results, because then you're using treatments that test well for you. And that's really where the amazing, amazing successes come in. So again, 4 to 6 cycles for somebody who is maybe treating early. And we recommend that when you become symptom-free, that you treat at least 1 or 2 treatment cycles after, because we know that the worms can produce like 100,000 eggs. Some of the species can. We know that about the biofilms. We know that they are hiding in little areas in the body. They're in the immature form, the larva, etc. So we have to allow them to hatch, and then we hit them again and hatch and hit them again. So, 1 or 2 treatment cycles after, you can always treat again more if you need to, but we don't just stop. What I'm trying to say is we don't just stop treating when we have become symptom free. Again, what I'm sharing with you is different than anything else that I'm aware of as far as different programs, approaches. This is treating the infections, the parasites that cause the MS or whatever chronic disease you're dealing with. So this is creating health. This is recovering. It's not trying to manage it, trying to live with it. And that's the difference. And this is where our standard of care has to go. This is the cure. This is the answer. It's treating the dysbiosis. It's treating the infections. And then as we do that, then we are building back our natural defense. So this is where we have to bring back the health promoting microbes that we need, that protects us from these disease causing microbes. And that is something I believe in the world we're living today, that we have to do that for the rest of our life, because there are so many hidden toxins and environmental toxins that we're not even aware of, like the 5G, for example. They've been dimming our sun. They've been spraying who knows what. We have a pretty good idea of things they're putting in the air. So we have this in our water. We have this in our air. And then we have the invisible, the wireless radiation. So all of these things we have to consider. They all weaken us. They all make it so that our immune system is not going to deal with these parasites as well, which brings us to chronic disease. So rebuilding the natural defense is longevity. That is how I have been able to live MS-free for over 30 years now. I didn't just cure myself 30 years ago and just go back to eating whatever and living however. I live the principles that we teach in the Live Disease-Free plan. And then once you're well, you will treat parasites at least once or twice a year. That's just a good practice to do. So very important to be treating the parasites at least once or twice a year, so you never end up with a parasitic infestation, just like we do with our dogs and our cats and our horses and our bunnies or whatever animals we have that we deworm, that we treat parasites for. And it's not just worming. Remember that they can get different types of parasites too. And this is what we have to do. And so we keep building up the good, and periodically we knock back the bad. And that is how we have a long, healthy, and happy life. And yes, we still have to eat lots of nutrition. We have to have a healthy lifestyle. All of those things are really important, and they are part of the plan. But that's the part we know already. We don't know about these parasites, and that's really the difference. And that is what I hope and pray that our doctors are going to, within the next few years here, are going to start to be trained, educated, and start to treat. I hope that will be the case. And I apologize for this crazy internet thing that's been going on here. I have no idea. All right, see if there's any questions. I'll go back. What I recommend that you do, I'm going to let you guys go, but what you can do is type in your questions. I will go back. I will answer your questions. I'm going to have to delete this video and just put up a better one that is not, damaged and not cut into 2 pieces and stopping whatever. And so maybe just look for the video when it comes back up if you have a burning question, and then put your questions in the question box, and we always love to answer your questions. So with that, thank you so much for joining me. And make sure that if you are, number one, if you don't know much about these infections, make sure to watch some of the videos that I have. And that is on YouTube, on the playlist, Live Disease. I've got tons of videos. My videos don't go down like they did today. I don't know what happened, but we will figure it out. So go to the YouTube and watch the infections. If you are at the place where you have been following me, because some of you have been watching a lot of my videos, and if you're ready to start treating, if you're ready for a plan, then make sure to watch my masterclass training, how myself and many others have recovered. We go into much more detail about all of this in the masterclass, and we've had students joining. We have students joining every week, and we would love to support you, and you can start to be a wellness champion and recover. And again, awesome. I see that. Thank you, Pam. I watched your masterclass. Amazing time. So good. Nicole, is the diet on your website? So the diet, We have like a little cheat sheet, which you can go to the Live Disease Free community in Facebook, Live Disease Free community in Facebook. And you can go in there and there is a file and it is the Live Disease Free Diet and Guidelines. We also have it on our website, Live Disease Free. I'm sure there's a direct link in the main menu. You can just kind of look there and you'll see there's a short little video I have that gives all the diet guidelines. It's huge, the changes you can have when you decrease the carbs. And that's only because those infections are not as happy. You're not giving them as much food and you're putting them on a fast. And you will notice significant symptom improvements. And it doesn't cost anything to change your diet. You have to buy vegetables, right? Low carb vegetables and animal protein and healthy fat, but then you don't buy all the processed garbage. So actually, you may end up saving money if you're eating healthier and not buying as much processed foods. Awesome. You are blown away. I'm so happy. And this is your answer. And just like the lady I talked to today, she was so emotional and so tearful. And if you do join and you want to work with me, then yes, we're definitely going to meet. And I'm super excited to support you. Otherwise, just start to learn about this, start to change your diet, start to learn about the infection, start to get ready to treat, because that is your answer. So with that, have a wonderful day and we will talk to you soon. Take care and bye-bye for now.